Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Detour Live. We've got plenty to talk about as always, and as always, I'm joined by four-time national road champion Johnny Trevorrow, Olympic gold medalist Scotty McGrory. Fellas, do you want to start with Scheldeprijs or the Giro first? What do you reckon? Go with the Aussie win?
I was going to say Giro, but yeah, okay, we'll go with the Aussie win instead.
Caleb Ewan, the Ewan Jet has done it again. No one could make up ground. He hit out obviously early with about 200 to go, and obviously there was a big crash as well. What are the big takeaways from that one, Scooter?
Well, look, just how fast Caleb is and how confident he is, because he had a couple of teammates. Jesper Stuyven is always his last lead-out man, but they didn't do a proper, like a full-blown lead-out like we saw at the Giro with Groupama FDJ. They just make sure that they get him in the right position, and he just surfs the peloton so well. There's so much confidence. Obviously, a little guy just gets in, follows the wheels the way he needs to. He's great at fending off anybody to make sure he stays in the right position, and just had by far more sprint power than all of them. Several things here. So you had Bonifacio finished second, so good result by him, and Brian Concard, so another former track cyclist that's a specialist road sprinter as well, in third place. But the rider that finished second across the line, and he banged his handlebars and dropped his head and all that kind of rubbish because he felt he'd lost his chance to win, was Pascal Ackermann from Bora Hansgrohe. And he absolutely caused carnage. He was boxed in, around the time that Caleb hit out. Ackermann was boxed in behind. He saw a gap opener on his right-hand side and just went for it and completely chopped in half August Jensen, who's the Norwegian riding for the Danish team, the Rival Securitas team.
Pretty banged up.
Dropped him, yeah. And it's one of those things, right? Because we've spoken a lot about this. Took more attention than Caleb's win, which is, it's a great victory. Certainly a sensational ride by Caleb, but there was a lot of attention on this particular crash. We talk about all of the safety issues in cycling. We spoke about the helicopter and the barriers and all those things at the Giro d'Italia. And in the end, sometimes the riders are their own worst enemy. And this was one of those things where there was really very little duty of care from Ackermann. He was desperate to get to the front. And I know you've got Robbie McEwen coming on later tonight, so he can talk firsthand about that amount of desperation. And the riders, typically, they put their blinkers on like a horse, and they can only see in front, and they do not care who's behind them. And this is one of those cases where Ackermann just chopped him in half and dropped him like a bag of spuds. And he got disqualified, but I'm now wondering whether that's enough. Like, should he get, a 1 week, 2 week, whatever, should he not be allowed to ride in the next couple of races to just get it into them? There is a duty of care here, guys. He gets to start the next race, DQ'd from this one, probably doesn't care. He finished second. He wanted to win, but he doesn't. If he doesn't get to start the next couple of races, he might think a little bit more about that, because the riders behind, it might end their season. Johnny, what do you think?
Yeah, well, it's funny, of all the finishes you see televised, this shows it better than anything, because they do the helicopter shot afterwards, and you just see him step out and just take the front wheel of the poor guy right from under him. Down he went. So it's cut and dry. There was no. I saw. It was funny in the highlights. They have the UCI officials debating it. They didn't have to debate it for very long. And I think you're right, Scotty. I reckon he maybe needs more than just relegation in a one-day race. But I don't know why he's banging the handlebars for, because he was never going to get anywhere near Caleb. Caleb absolutely, as you said before, Dan, when he went early and just screamed off, and I reckon he's back into that low position. For a while there, he was cut with his nose on the tyre, and then he got back a little bit higher, but I reckon he's back to the nose on the tyre again, because he was so low. They would get no advantage trying to come off the wheel of Caleb. He's down that low.
Well,
that was very quick, very quick.
A guy who knows a fair bit about sprinting is our old mate, Allan Davis. Albie, welcome to the Detour, mate. Did you get to see much of the racing overnight?
Thanks, mate. Thanks for the opportunity to be back on the Detour.
I gave you plenty of notice too, at least 5 minutes.
Yeah, mate. I had to quickly clean my teeth, and I'm back. I'm on you. So, I just seen the results, mate. So I didn't see it live, but definitely seen Caleb's win and also read the results from the Giro.
We were just talking then about duty of care in the sprints, because Ackerman cut off August Jensen. It was a pretty dodgy move. Scotty was saying, well, should there be more sort of punishment for these sort of blatant chops? Because, I mean, if it was horse racing, the jockey would get a month.
That's right, mate. Definitely, we're seeing. I think there's more stricter than ever. We've always seen in the tour they've been a lot more stricter than other events. That's kind of been the theme over the years. But sprinting's always been a part of sprinting, Jonesy. Scotty would know as well, and also John. It's just part of the game. Sometimes is rubbing shoulders, and you get used to it. But if everyone holds the lines, it's quite normal. But it's just when those really abrupt movements, that's when I think sanctions need to be in place.
Albie, I look forward to you having a look at the highlights of it, and maybe even jump off for a minute and get it on YouTube.
Do you want me to? I'll try and get on YouTube and share the screen.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
I'll start doing some
the
work.
Aerial shot. The aerial shot at the end.
Leave it with me.
It's really good. It's really good because it's not just a move towards the barricade. All those things that are a bit dubious. This is a right hand turn, whack, and takes him down. It's a real bad one.
That's what
the only
really abrupt. Sorry, Scotty.
That's right. No, I was going to say the only rubbing of shoulders was Jensen's shoulder rubbing straight into the tarmac when he got his front wheel completely ripped out from under him. It was one of those desperation moves. When you see, you'll understand, and we all know it as sprinters. If you're feeling good, he was boxed in, and there's nowhere to go, and he's feeling okay. He's up for the sprint. And I still don't think he was going to beat Caleb. Caleb was so quick. But then when there was a gap open on the right-hand side, he just went for it, and he just turned right, didn't put his indicator on, and just went smack straight through Jensen and dropped him like a bag, and a few riders straight over the top. So, of course, he was disqualified from the race. And I actually, when it first happened, I thought, well, gee, I hope they actually go back and look at this, because sometimes they only look at, who's won the race and if they've infringed. You need to go back a little bit and just check things out. But, they gave him the disqualification. But if there were broken bones behind Albie, then there's riders that may have finished their season while Ackerman pops up next week and has another race.
Yeah, exactly. That's where that's exactly right, Scott. That's where it becomes, even becomes in normal life, it'd probably be a legal issue. It'd probably end up in courts. But mate, that race, Scheldeprijs, there's always a crash. I don't know how many. If you have a look over the replays from over the years, I've crashed there. Robbie's probably crashed. I know he's won it a few times, but there's always a crash in that final or leading into the final. It's a crazy one.
All right, I think I've worked it out. Application window. Actually, no, give me a couple more seconds, boys.
No worries,
I thought the other interesting thing, LB, of the Scheldeprijs was that it could very well be Cavs. Here we go.
Yeah, you ready? All right, hang on.
So
I've just got to separate that screen.
Ackerman.
Yeah. So who's he chopped the Bahrain? Is it the Spanish guy, is it?
No, Danish guy. Hang on, you watch.
All right, so I can go back and let's have a look at the chop in replay. Oh, is that you want one more?
Yeah, from there.
Yeah.
So you see he's on the left, nowhere to go, and you can see where he is. He's right on the left. He's thinking, well, hang on, I've got to get out here, and the gap just starts to open up now.
Yep.
And he's going to go for it.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, see, that's just a blatant. That's a blatant move. So there should be ramifications after a move like that. And the more ramifications and stricter they are, hopefully it stops riders from making those decisions in the future. You know.
Do you think it will though? Because I raised that question, and we see that in Australian rules football, where the players just now know the penalties are going to be there. If they hit someone or do something infringe, they know they're going to cop it. And if it's a severe one, if there's a really bad injury, then that magnifies what the penalty would be. We don't have those sort of regulations in cycling. But do you think when the riders are desperate in a situation like that and they're still feeling okay and then the gap opens up, do you think they're going to actually be able to think about the ramifications and hold off, which is what you would hope that they would do? I just don't know if they would, though, Albie.
Yeah, well, I think it has to be done, and time will tell, Scotty. And I know you know, as you guys know, I work with the UCI, and at the World Tour races, we have like a video. We go to the video ref, and there's an actual commissaire in the van with all this technology. They can go back and rewind, and they're looking for instances like that. So, you know, I think there should be stricter penalties, and you know, I don't know if it will fix the problem, Scotty. You know, at the heat of the moment, they see a gap, they will make a, you know, maybe bring in like a yellow card and a red card if you do it more than once. You know, obviously you've got a problem, and maybe you should be suspended for a little bit of time.
I was talking with Scotty today about exactly all of that. And we were talking about there's two parts to it. There's the severity of the actual move that causes it, and then there's the severity of the repercussions of that crash. And they both have to come into it. But you know what, to answer yours, Scotty, what my thoughts are, it'll have in the back of their mind, it'll be on their mind that they can't move too quickly. But that move then, he wasn't thinking about knocking that bloke down. He thought he had enough move. He just went bang out. He only overlapped him by a 15th, as I might say, just enough to really take him down quickly. So I don't believe it was a callous move that he'd thought about, but the repercussions of it were he did the damage, and he should probably get a couple of weeks holiday.
Well, moving focus to some more positive stuff. Caleb Ewan, are we embarking on, I mean, he was touted at a young age, could be the next Robbie McEwen. Are we seeing a lot of similarities? Because that was the last time Lotto won that race was 2002 with Robbie. We've got a pretty exciting 5 years ahead.
Absolutely.
I think Albie's the one to talk about. Albie was the man who saw him come racing past him when he was 17, so he's probably a perfect person to talk about that.
Well, I basically, like you said, Johnny, I basically said that then, Jonesy, to answer your question. You know, I think he could be the best we've seen from Australia, and I actually said it again live on Spanish commentary during the Tour de France when he's first come onto the scene with Mitchelton Scott, or whatever it was called back then. I'm not sure. It might have been Orica. But I think he has all the ingredients, mate, to be, you know, one of the best ever. And, you know, it's not only the potential with your natural ability and, you know, obviously with sports and science and his coaches around these days, but he has the tactical nous to go with that. And you don't see that every day. And Caleb, you know, he can have a lead out. He's like Robbie, you know, or he can just find his way and surf the peloton when it gets all complicated in the lead outs and there's no one there. We've seen it this year. You know, his lead out training
amazing.
Got wiped out in the first couple of days of the Tour de France, and he went on and won a couple of stages. So that you don't see all the time, Jonesy, and I think it's a huge future for Caleb, and it'll get better in the climbs too as he gets older.
John?
And I was just going to say, just to add to that, while we're still on the Scheldeprijs, it was interesting that here we have Caleb wins it and now being touted as, you know, one of the best road sprinters in the world. Probably he and Damar are the two sprinters of the moment. And then the greatest road sprinter of all time maybe had his last bike race in that same race with Mark Cavendish.
Well, we've got a grab with Caleb Ewan after the finish.
Yeah, it actually, I wanted my team to keep me right near the front because I knew from previous editions that it can be really a messy sprint. So yeah, we were always in good position. I lost them a little bit when we were along the canal, but yeah, we came back together. They got me right near the front, and yeah, you know, my job was a lot easier from there because, you know, I got the wheel that I wanted to be on, and I started the sprint when I wanted to start, and yeah, I felt good as well. So I think it was a strong sprint.
How does it feel to be in that good of a shape when we are at the end of the season and there is not so much opportunities left?
Yeah, I think, you know, my shape's probably not as good as it was in the Tour, but, you know, I knew these races were coming up and I was motivated to, you know, keep training after the Tour. And, you know, after the Tour, you don't need to do so much, you know, you just need to hold the form. And, yeah, you know, I kept training. And, yeah, I still feel good. So, you know, there's one more race for me to go in the Pana, and hopefully I can get a good result there as well.
I heard that you will stay in Europe during the winter because of the corona, I guess.
Yeah, it's too hard to go back to Australia now with the quarantine and everything, and then I don't know if I'll be able to come back. So I think it's safer just to stay in Europe. And yeah, you know, I live in Monaco, so the weather doesn't get too bad there, and I can do pretty good training. So yeah, I'll stay here this winter.
I mean, that is not really in a good way for the Tour de Under, I guess, also.
Yeah, you know, I'm not 100% sure what's happening with Tour Down Under, but I think for next year I'll probably start my season in Europe, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, interesting comments there, given that I think the majority of riders are obviously going to be staying in Europe, and then it'll depend on the bubble, how many come over for Tour Down Under, iffy. Oh, jeez. You right?
Stewie O'Grady won't like to hear that, because I talk to Stewie regularly, and I haven't this week, but the feedback he's been getting from the teams is they're really keen to get out here and get away from Europe, where they're coming out to a place where there's not, and the quarantine that they've got planned for Adelaide is going to be pretty good. So I don't think Caleb's on the money there. They're not talking about whacking him into a hotel for 2 weeks. They're putting him into their own area with roads to train on, come back to. So it's a very good system they're setting up. So all the teams, according to Stu, have said they want to come. So I'd be disappointed if Caleb's not here, because A, for Tour Down Under, but B, I want him for the Bay Crits.
Bay Crits.
I have heard that they have had early discussions with the security company that did the Melbourne hotel lockdown.
Yeah.
It might be exciting, but not so
yeah. I've got a question. You're right, mate.
I was just going to say, in defence to Caleb and backing up with what you're saying, JT, I think the question was based with Caleb coming to Australia for the whole winter. I think the Tour Down Under is kind of like a different question. I think there's a lot more possibilities of, and a lot of the teams that I'm talking with as well, like what you said, JT, are keen for Down Under, obviously because of the good weather and getting out of the infected winter here, if it is in Europe. But I think the riders that have to go, like the Aussies they normally go to Australia for the whole winter. In Europe, I think that's like a different kettle of fish. But Tour Down Under, I think, is in a lot better position than what we think.
I've got a question for Albie and Scotty. Is Caleb now in that sweet spot of his career where he's got enough experience where he knows each season how to prepare, how to train? You're not reliant on sort of coaches and that in your ear, looking at data and all this sort of stuff in your early days of your career. You're getting that level of experience where you're like, I know what I have to do now. I'll start with you, Scotty.
All right. But Caleb was always very mature beyond his years. I mean, the first year that he rode the Tour Down Under, on the last night, all the riders are getting prepared to go out and have a bit of a drink and have a bit of fun. It's the start of the season, so it's not like during the Tour de France and or the races leading up to the Tour de France. So they do actually, back then at least, they let their hair down a little bit. Caleb on the last night organised a dinner meeting with his manager to just plan the rest of the season. So he wasn't thinking about going down to the pub and getting on the bevies with the boys. So he's been very mature beyond his years right from the very start.
What's wrong with the lad?
Yeah, well, he wants to win. I'm sure he enjoys himself, but the season had started. And
Mate, I am almost positive that he would have gone out for a few share that's after his meeting with his manager.
Maybe afterwards, yeah. But look, the answer to the question is he's very focused. He certainly does understand it. And so many of the riders now are very different, I guess, from the previous generation, where they all train hard, but they're just so much more astute when it comes to the numbers, what the figures are, in terms of power outputs, etc., nutrition, diet. I think they're all far better than my generation were. And then likewise when you go back towards John's generation. So I think he knows himself, but he still needs guidance. You can't do this on your own at that level. You still need someone else to sit back and have a different perspective of where you're at. And because the training's not going to be the same every year, year in, year out. You have to adjust it so the body adapts and grows. Albie, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right, Scotty. And, it's just finding that balance, that happy balance, happy medium within your life. And, he's a father now, he's a family man. He's got responsibilities there. He knows, he's done obviously a few years now in the pro peloton. He knows how to adjust his goals around to timing his form to those goals and what needs to be done within those phases leading up to the goals. So I think maturity is a really good. I think you pinpointed it really well there, Scotty. He's he's got a really good head on his shoulders. I actually know Caleb's family really well. There, it's the relatives up from Bundaberg, so we've known my family and his grandparents and his father Mark. We've known each other for a lifetime. So they're a really good family. You know, they've got the feet on the ground. He's got really good support around him. The science and the coaching these days, like you mentioned, Scotty, as well, has hugely changed even since when I raced. So they know how to time form and timing form, and also mixing in the experience that he's got from already being in the pro peloton for so many years and succeeding. Mixing that all together, I think like I said before, mate, the future is huge for Caleb.
Is that your phone, John?
No.
Jeez, put it on silent.
It's just Stewie ringing.
Stewie. Where'd you get that crap? What's his number?
Exactly, it's Jerry. So more important.
Geez,
I'll get back to you later, Jerry.
You don't mind a good name drop, do you, Johnny? All right. Now, I had feedback on yesterday's show, and they said, hey, where was the fan interaction? So apologies. Wendy Superfan, hi, guys. It was awesome to see Caleb win. Good on you, Wendy. Gary Tilley. That's nearly as good as Barry Hall's right hook on Staker. I think he's talking about the chop. This is a question. Stuart McIntosh says, what would Caleb Ewan's training look like to hold his form post-Tour de France? Albie, you do a lot of training programs. What do you reckon he would have done?
Yeah, well, in hindsight, the Tour wasn't that far ago. It wasn't that long ago. So first of all, it just would have been recovery. There would have been a recovery phase. And then after that, it would just be like a few explosives, just getting the motor started again. You know, it would have been a hugely structured training program before the Tour, obviously with no racing leading into it. So that would have been really structured. But post Tour, it would have been more recovery rather than really specific efforts. And then I'd say just a little bit of motor pacing before he went up to get those race legs again. But the strength and all that would have been there and still there.
Got another question that's come in, or comment from the Wheel Wizard. Still waiting for the UCI to do something about Dylan Groenewegen with Fabio Jakobsen's crash at the Tour of Poland back in August. Is that all still going through the processes?
Albie, you're involved with UCI, so...
Yeah, come on, Albie. What's happening?
What are you doing?
We want answers, mate.
I'll leave it to still.
We want the truth.
It's in the court, so I don't. It's not one. Well, I wasn't there. It's not one of my races that I attend. I'm down for the Spanish World Tour races and the Australian World Tour races. So my colleagues are there, and I'm sure they're going through the processes through the courts. And it's a serious situation, like we said before. There's investors invest a lot of money into the sport, and this guy's out for a long period of time, and there's been a lot of investments going into him. So, from the business perspective of the sport as well. So, it's a very serious situation.
And as I say in the classic, Scotty, you can't handle the truth. But I've got to say, there's two parts to that crash. I mean, it was definitely a bad move. But the organisers have to accept a lot of the responsibility of what the aftermath of the crash was, because the barricading was terrible. There was actually a gap inviting someone to go through and hit the finished structure that happened. That would not have happened with the correct barricading there. It would have been just another cycle accident.
It wouldn't happen at the Bay Crits.
It wouldn't have happened
at the Bay Crits.
I can say this, guys, post that crash, and obviously there's been other incidences, unfortunately, this year since racing's regime internally. We've had a lot of talks with safety and how we're going to change the safety and getting, like you say, Johnny, like the organisers to meet us halfway and make, those barriers were what I believe, don't quote me, were more plastic than metal barriers. So maybe there's questions to be asked there. So there's been a lot of internal talks about the future of safety with the sport.
What is the ideal barrier situation? I mean, what are you ideally looking for? I know there was a lot of changes since that policeman got skittled when he was bloody taking a photo on the finish there. But what as a rider is the best case scenario? They're the ones that are on the slope that if you do fall, like when Cookie got chopped at the Giro that time. What are you looking for? Scotty?
Well, yeah. Well, I
Oh,
mean,
John?
the ideal one you say is those angled, but the fact they've got to be locked together properly. Because if they're not locked together, you hit one barricade, the whole thing goes over. When they're locked together with supports every now and again, it's like a structure. So a rider hits it, they bounce off. That's what they should be there for. Not hit it and it collapses and you go over the other side and into the people. So it's a barrier for a reason. It's not just something that's sticking up there to stop the fans from stepping on the road. It's a barrier to stop people from getting in and riders from going over. And it's got to be designed that way.
And they shouldn't come back onto the road to cause more crashes or more carnage with the other riders.
But not even like the crashes, guys. We seen the other day on the Giro just with the wind from the helicopter.
Yeah,
blew the barriers on. Took out riders. So this has to be
because they weren't interlocked properly. That's the whole problem. Under pressure, people get busy. They back them up, and they just don't finish the job. They're all designed to lock in together.
They need to send Karen Jones to the Giro. That wouldn't have happened on her watch. I can guarantee it.
Exactly.
Now we've got another comment. Wendy Superfan. She says, should the Giro stop now, seeing that there are a large number of positive cases, especially with the police on tour? We've talked about this many times on the show. Come on, Albie, make a decision. Should they end it?
Oh, mate, it's so hard to answer. There's so many stakeholders involved. I was reading the news today. There's 17 police have been given back positive tests for coronavirus. So maybe that's been the reason why the bubble's been, inside the bubbles, but there's been positives. So, mate, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. It's such a hard one. First and foremost, health and safety of the humanity has got to be the first. Decisions have got to be made around that, obviously. So, mate, I'm not in a position to answer for the Giro. I don't work on the Giro, but I think there's got to be some
interesting. Albie,
health and safety of humanity's got to be the first one choice, and then after that, we work on whether you have a bike race.
Yeah,
I agree with you, Albie. It's interesting that what you just said then about the police. So we heard that as a rumor yesterday, and I still haven't seen it actually confirmed. But if that is the case, then I can't see how the race can continue. If there's 17 police gets confirmed, I just cannot see this race making it to Milan.
Yeah, I just read it before I come online, mate. It was published on online just now. So that was the latest update. So that's a couple of steps forward in the series. They're within the race, within the peloton, driving on the motorbikes, touching everyone. So
what's the latest with Michael Matthews? His condition.
So he's returned a false negative in the last test that he did, which was one of the short-term tests, which have a fair amount of degree of error. So I think they'll now just do another test, and we'll wait for the results of that. But so positive on the race, left the race. Then the next, which was the short-term 15-minute test, returned negative.
Okay.
So I guess right now he's thinking this next one better be positive, otherwise he'd be quite upset that he had to leave.
Well, that's the other issue with the false positive. So, geez, it's just a cluster. All right. Ian Thomas has said, anyone know, has anything been said about Cav's future? And I was reading something that he says he still wants to ride on. I think with 90 uncontracted riders at the moment, unless you're purchasing him for more publicity stuff, I don't know if any teams are going to really dive in, because what sort of coin would he be commanding, LB, even in this current state of his career?
Oh, mate, like you say, it's similar to 2013 when I couldn't find it was very limited options available. So Cav's got to make a decision. I think there's a lot of future after cycling for Cav as well, and maybe it's time to end the chapter and start the new chapter as well. So I think it's a personal decision, Jonesy. Me personally, I think that's probably the best option for Cav right now. And but like I say, mate, there's a minimum wage within the World Tour, and there's minimum wage within the next, the teams at Pro Continental. So if he wants to go ahead and for another year or two on minimum or close to minimum wages, well, so be it.
He won't do that. He won't do that.
Yeah,
But look, I think the unfortunate thing I think for Cav is that because of injury, he hasn't been able to perform for 2 years. So and he's such a competitive person. He never wanted to go out like that. He wanted to. He always felt it was there. It just every time he'd get close to getting back, something else would happen. So he's never been able to produce that form. He wasn't over the hill. It's just these injuries and those little niggles have not allowed him to get back to the sort of form that he knew he had. And that's, I think, frustrating him to buggery that he's good. He hasn't really performed in 2 years, and it's not the way he wanted to go out. I think that's what it boils down to.
It's a bit like it's Daryl Summers syndrome. He's just, mate, hey, it's finished. You're just going to hang it up. The Europeans wouldn't get that. Now,
we had another stage at the Giro, boys.
Before we're going to get to that, hang on. We've got more comments. His positive result was more accurate test, so I'd wait for another negative before we get cranky. That's regarding Bling. But then the Wheel Wizards come over the top and said Michael Matthews' second COVID-19 test results returned negative. But I think that's what you said, Scotty.
Yeah, so the first one was positive. The second one, which was the short-term test, which is only over 15 minutes, that does have a fair amount of degree of failure, and that was turned up negative. So they'll do another one now, another more substantial test, and by tomorrow we'll probably know the result of that.
Okay, and last question for this batch, Stuart McIntosh says, what is a minimum wage? Do we know what that is?
It's about 50,000 euros, I think. Is that right, Albie? Something like that?
60,000 euro gross for World Tour teams.
And with the exchange rate in Australia, it's about $500,000 at the moment.
Yeah, that's
not so cash.
It's about 100. It's about 100 grand Aussie, but I can tell you now, this thing his wage at Bahrain is something like $1 million, not 100,000. So no one's going to pay him.
Quit.
No one's going to pay him that sort of money.
No, he wants. Of course, he wants to continue.
I think Pro Continental is 25,000. So not a World Tour team. That'll be the next. That's the next minimum wage you can earn within cycling.
The challenge to his contract is, okay, say if he's getting $1 million a year, right, and he would have been earning more than that previously. Even if they said, okay, would you ride for 300? He might say, yeah, sure, because he wants to try and get a win to finish on a high. But is he going to get that win? Like paying him $700,000 less, you're not going to. You're probably still not. You're not going to get $300,000 worth out of him at the moment, the way he's riding, which is unfortunate because he's the greatest sprinter we've ever seen. So I'd love to see him get another big win, but I just don't think it's going to happen. No matter how little you pay him, it'll be basically just for some publicity to have him on your start list.
Yeah.
Why don't you get some start money and just have his last race at the Bay Crits and just get him to rig the hot dog circuit? He can go out with a win.
We can get him a motorhome. We can get him a Jayco motorhome to travel around Australia with his family for a couple of weeks after doing the Bay Crits. Done.
Yeah.
Well,
look after him.
What a way to finish your career down at the Geelong foreshore on the hot dog. Two-hand salute.
My favourite Cav story, before we get on to the Giro, we've got plenty of time, was when they come out for the world titles that were in Geelong, the one you ran third in, Albie, brilliant ride. I'd arranged the hotel for the English team through Sutto, through Shane Sutton. And so I organised a truck and all of that. So we went down and picked them all up from the airport. So I had a little minibus truck, and a few of them jumped in the car with me. So Cav and a couple of the other guys jumped in the back, and Masua jumped in the front. And away we took off. So we're driving to Geelong. It's evening, and they're yabbering away in the back. And Cav says, Iffy, you're involved in this course. I said, yeah, I designed part of this course. He said, I've been reading that people are saying it's too hard for me. Will I get around this course? I said, no, don't think so, Cav. He went, why? I said, look, I just don't think, I think that hill is going to be. He said, I've won Milan San Remo. I said, yeah, mate, but this hill you're going to do 14 times. I just don't think you will. Anyway, I hope I'm wrong, mate. So anyway, they went back to the conversation. So when they got back, they were all planned to go training and I go over the hill that next day. And Kev said, nope, we're not going there today. We're going to go training on the flat first. He wanted to get himself completely psyched up, completely right. And then the next day, they went up the hill. And Shane said he went to the top and he just rode up to the top and just shook his head and said, no.
I heard you were his inspiration to win the Worlds the following year because you doubted him, John.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Gossie's never forgiven me. Gossie's never forgiven me. Yeah.
Another comment from Allan. He says, drinking at the Iffy bar was a highlight. Good on you, Allan.
Yeah, that's true.
It was good.
Hey, before we touch on the Giro, just a thing on Caleb. We're talking about, is he going to be the next greatest best thing? I don't think we should compare generations. And Robbie McEwen was 12 stages of the Tour and 12 stages of the Giro. He was the best that we've ever had as an Australian sprinter up until now. Caleb is on the trajectory to surpass that. If you go by the ages and the numbers, you go back 3 years. And he won a stage of the Giro back then. So he's 26 now. I think Robbie was 27, maybe. You can correct me when he comes on, when he won his first stage of the Tour de France. And then absolutely just kicked on and smashed it for the next sort of 5, 6, 7 years. So Caleb's got a very much of a head start on Robbie. But then Caleb went into the pro peloton like the young guys do now. We saw with Tadej Pogačar and all these others that are coming in so much earlier, ready to go and ready to race. So Robbie went through the Australian Institute of Sport system, through the amateur program, and he didn't get that. He didn't start in the pro World Tour level until a few years later. So the generations is just completely different. But at the moment, it does look like Caleb is certainly going to be one in a million.
All right. Well, we're 35 minutes in. We probably should talk about the Giro, eh? Demar, great win, done it easy. Another scenario where no one can get past him. Like, he's just a bloody superstar in this race.
Leave that photo up there for a bit, Dan, because obviously Demar was the man. He's just the fantastic Frenchman. It was an amazing sprint by him. Peter Sagan, what a recovery after an incredible ride yesterday to win the stage. Almost single-handedly just broke the entire peloton, and then steps up and still runs second on a flat sprint stage the next day. The guy is a superstar. And you can see in fourth place on the right-hand side is Simone Consoni from Italy. He's there as Viviani's lead-out man, but Viviani was knocked off the bike by a motorbike 20 Ks to go, got him back to the peloton, but then they must have had a bit of a chat. He wasn't up for the sprint, and they've given Consoni the go. He finished fourth, and apparently the next sprint stage, they're going to work for Consoni instead of Viviani. Viviani just doesn't have it, and also UAE did a great job to try and set up Gaviria. He stepped out at the same time as Demar did and had nothing. He just doesn't have the legs at all.
Well, that begs the question. Gaviria had COVID back in March. Are we seeing the after effects, what this can have on an athlete? That's going to beg the question as well.
That's scary,
you probably are. Yeah, you probably are, mate. It makes sense. Sense. Yeah.
Now,
Miles Scottson, lads. Miles Scottson in Groupama FGJ. He is absolutely hitting his straps. Part of that lead-out training. He was the second last man before Demar stepped out. And the former Aussie champ did a great job. Yeah.
Well, we've got the great man Robbie McEwen sitting in the lobby here. Let's cross fingers, toes, and anything else that his Wi-Fi is up to scratch. Robbie McEwen, how are you, mate?
There we go. Just settling in. Pretty good.
Jeez, the audio sounds crisp. The Wi-Fi is good. Hey,
fantastic.
We're back.
Sorry, I'm late. I was eating steak.
Oh, jeez. How's it going up there? How's it going up there at the Goldie, mate, with your no restrictions?
Yeah, just like normal, like always. Going great. It's beautiful one day, perfect the next. You know what they say?
Yeah.
I got to ask you one question, Robbie. You sent the last text you sent me just up the street on the corner. What was that? What does that mean?
Oh, shit, I've sent it to the wrong person. Are you joking? All right.
That's dangerous.
You did.
Hey, Robbie, why don't you open the batting with what are your memories of the Giro? Obviously, you won 12 stages, you held leaders' jerseys, but you never bloody finished one. What were your memories of the Giro?
It all went according to plan. Get in, grab a win, or grab at least one win, and get out before it got too exhausting, and save myself for the Tour. I loved going to the Giro. I really loved the race. I had a good time there. I had some really good success with the team. Got the leaders jersey for a day in 2005, but always went into it. I always found that when I finished a Grand Tour, about a month later, I was in really, really good form, but only sort of for one-day races. If I went to another tour, I'd reached the end of my tether after a couple of days. So going into the Giro, I always made sure I did sort of between 10 and 16 days was the longest I ever spent there, and then get out and recover and make sure I was then ready to just prep fully for the Tour de France and be fresh enough to then go into battle in the Tour. With the green jersey on my mind. Had I been just a stage hunter and thinking, 10 days will be enough in the Tour, I maybe would have tried harder to finish a Giro, but just the timing of it just meant for me it wasn't feasible to finish the Giro and be at my best right throughout the Tour. So that's why that choice.
We always hear stories of Chippo being the one that controls the bunch and tells them all to slow down and barks at people if they're riding too quick. After getting a bit of clout in the peloton, were you able to command a bit of power like that back in the day?
Nah.
All right, next question, Johnny.
I was talking to Robbie earlier.
Dry there. I just wanted to hang him out to dry.
Go on, mate.
I was talking to Robbie earlier about Dave Macca's memories of the stage he won. And he said he wouldn't have won it without because he went up to Robbie and got some advice. He said, I was thinking about attacking. Tell me, Robbie, what you said. It was fantastic.
Well, the whole thing was sort of shut down at the front. It was almost one of those days where the Italians had sort of blocked the road across the front of the peloton as if to say, nobody's going to attack. We're going to have an easy ride. And Macca said, I'm feeling up. I'd love to be able to get up the road in one of these stages. I said, well, mate, you got to do it. You've just got to go. If you feel like you're having a good one and you want to go, just go and I'll help you. I said, well, sneak up the right-hand side. I said, I'll stay in your wheel. And about 300 metres further up, I could see what looked like sort of a little side road or a large driveway. I said, that is your spot. When we get to there, you hit that as hard as you can. You get around them, and I'll come in behind you, and I'll stop in the gap. And he got past. I stopped in the gap. My job was done. All he had to do was another 160K at 40K an hour to hold everyone off the inside.
Hey, I can't follow it because Macca's version of events was he said, hey, Robbie, I'm thinking of attacking. And you said, you won't. And then he went. That was it.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't say that. He said, I wouldn't have won it without Macca telling me to go. Robbie telling me to go.
He wouldn't have maybe gone at the moment he did had I not G'd him up and sort of had a plan. But I tell you what, geez, he had an incredible ride that day. It was a seriously difficult stage. It was lumpy all the way. At one stage, he had Eddie Mazzolini chasing him, trying to get across, and he never got there. And we got to this finish circuit with about a 6K climb on it. And I got to the circuit with a bunch and got shot out the back. He did a seriously incredible ride that day. You cannot underestimate. It's not one of those days where they go, oh, old mates. And people were laughing at him when he went away.
Mate, Robbie,
I think it was Polo.
When did Eddie Mazzolini go?
Hey?
When did Eddie Mazzolini, when did he decide to take off after him?
I reckon Macca at that point had about 6 minutes, 6 to 8 minutes. And it was about midway in the stage. He had about probably 100K to go. 90.
It was interesting because he got within 2 minutes. We heard him, and Keith Lambert was in the race director's car, and he come up to Macca and said, "I think he's coming. I think you should wait and just work with him." And Macca said, "No bloody way!" And then he tacked into the next hill and whatever, and he closed him a minute, I think. And then Keith come up and said, well, actually, he's back out to 2 minutes, so just keep going.
Yeah, he got within a couple of minutes. He was really bearing down on him, and then Macca just kept, knees out, elbows out, bobbing up and down. But it's proved over the years to be a very effective style for Macca, and he smashed it. I got to the finish, like near the finish, and I was following. I saw the big screen, and then I was as team cars were coming past it, Gruppetto team cars, I was asking for information and listening to anything I could to see how he was getting. When he won, I put the cheer up. I was on my own out the arse, and I was so happy for him.
Yeah.
One of the themes,
the bloke who runs second was a Russian bloke riding for an Italian team, and he thought this has been so hard, so fast. There's no way in the world anybody stayed away. So he won the sprint in front of Konishev in for second and put his hands up in victory. Dave Mack had already been in for 50 seconds.
Hey, one of the themes we were talking to Macca about was obviously that was a Linda McCartney team which folded, and there was a bit of dodgy stuff going on, and the sheriff's vein was starting to fill with blood. And now you went through something similar with Pegasus, and there's a lot of riders now, Robbie, that are out of contract and they're scrambling. That must be a super stressful period.
It's a horrible feeling when you're out of contract and you just don't know what is going to happen the next year, and you want to keep going. You've got, physically you can keep going. Mentally, you're ready to do everything it takes to continue to be a professional, and you can't get a contract. It's super, super stressful, and it really works on your emotions and on your morale going into races. And for some guys, it can work in a positive sense. They can really get the best out of themselves to prove themselves to get a contract, and others start to crumble, and you just see the time ticking away. It's like that sand running through the hourglass, and it just gets quicker and quicker and quicker. And the longest wait I had was till Christmas one year.
Hey, what are your thoughts on Mark Cavendish and his situation? He's had a couple of years of illness. He hasn't come back to the form that we last saw him when he was at his best, but he's obviously desperate to try and finish on a high. What are your views on what he should or shouldn't do?
I honestly, I'll start it off by saying he is the best sprinter of his generation. He is absolutely one of the best ever. He's been an incredible rider. You look at his palmarès, it speaks for itself. The passion he's got for the sport, you can see it every time he speaks about it, or every time he bursts into tears about it. He absolutely loves it, but I think it's the right time to stop. Like you said, Scott, he's had glandular fever twice. He's had a succession of head knocks. They've all taken their toll. He's now 35, which is not super old, but let's consider that he came on the scene in 2007 when he was about 19, got his first big win that year, started winning tour stages in 08. He's had a really good run of this time frame that I always talk about, 8 years at your peak, and he's had 9. But for the last few years, it's been a real struggle. He's been endangering himself, like getting in a situation, then crashing again and again and again. And with that couple of times having glandular fever, it's just really, it's shortened the end of his career. And I think it's the right time to hang it up. And it's no time to feel ashamed about stopping now, about what could be, or finishing on a high. And I can tell you, and you blokes will say the same, I think that people will judge you on what you did throughout your whole career. They don't remember what was your last race. They don't remember how you went in your last 6 months or your last season.
I remember your last race, Tour of Kelly. It was a belter.
Hey?
I remember your last race, Tour of Kelly. It's a bloody
Shut up.
cracking trip.
You got a phographic photo.
Sorry, mate. Continue.
Keno, and you were filming it. You're a bit of voyeuristic, to be honest. And I felt like you're a vulture hovering.
Yeah, but it got me a trip to America, so I don't care.
Yeah, no one knows.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right though, Robbie. Like in 3 years from now or 2 years from now, no one's going to think about those last 2 seasons of Cav if he was to stop this year. They're just going to think about the 30 stage wins he had at the Tour de France and all the incredible races. Yeah.
Yep.
No,
San Remo, World.
If he start rattling those tins, mate, hot dog circuit, Bay Crits, they will all remember that. They'll talk about that race for years to come.
Yeah, I want to get him out for Bendigo Madison. Cav came out and rode the Bendigo Madison in 2005, and he won the Friday Night Criterium. And I remember at the Tour de France 1 year after, I don't know if it was his first year that he won, but I went up to him after the stage, and he'd won a stage, and I said, "Oh, Mark, great win. How does this compare to winning the Bendigo Madison Criterium?" And he just had a bit of a smirk and a smile.
Pitching my line. Yeah. Exactly. That's my line.
Well, no, I just used it, so it's mine. And
no. Yeah, but what did he say?
He said almost as good.
Oh, yeah. No, that's Robbie's line. No, bullshit. You're talking crap now. Anyway.
Oh, it's starting to fire up on the detour, folks.
Listen, mate,
Anyway.
Cav has copied plenty of stuff that I did. He just did it better.
Hey, Robbie, Warren says, what's with the mo? You're trying to look like Errol Flynn.
In like Flynn.
Yeah, what's going on? Is that the COVID? The COVID mo?
Cookie duster.
I just haven't had a shave in about a day.
Hey, how's your
Morning. Sorry, man.
how's your Fondo going? You can give that a plug if you want.
It's been running one, mate. The Fondo was incredible. Robbie's Grand Fondo was last weekend. It was on Sunday. It was awesome.
Oh, right. How many people turned out?
We had over the whole weekend, we had just over 900 people, which is really good for our event. We're not a massive event, but it was a really good turnout. We had trail running, mountain biking, road riding. We had perfect weather, 25, 26 degrees and sunny, no wind. Everyone was wrapped. Everyone had a great day out on the bike, and we'll go again next year.
It is a wonderful event. I used to go along in the early days, give you a hand, and I know my young bloke Dean kept going for a few years after, and always used to love coming up for your event. Yeah, loves it. Yeah, and wonderful circuit out in the hinterland where you guys go.
We'll get the end back on the bike and out there.
Exactly.
This detour is starting to turn into the Graham Norton show. Everyone can just get on the plonks and just have a bit of a chin wag. It's bloody great. Yeah, Scotty's on the beers. It's bloody unreal.
Hang on.
This is going to be like that TV show Drunk History, but we'll just talk cycling. Yeah,
Hey,
awesome.
no, serious question though for you, Robbie. Did you watch the Scheldeprijs?
I've only seen the sprint, and it looked
that's what
like
you need to
so
see.
many other sprints out of the Scheldeprijs that I've seen over the years. There was a big stack.
That's what I said.
It's not the Scheldeprijs without a big stack in the finish in the final 250.
I did download a photo. There's the last time Lotto won it in 2002, and then McEwen. That was posted on Twitter today. Great memories.
Oh, Caleb Ewan.
One other thing they were talking about earlier, Robbie, is should the penalties for chopping riders in the sprint be harsher to deter riders from doing that?
Yeah, I think you do need to look at something like an AFL or an NRL sanction that says, all right, you're not racing for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Because if you do, your penalty, I suppose, should be equal to the time out of the rider who's been injured the worst.
That's fair.
Yeah, I like that. That's a bit interesting. But there was a pretty blatant, took him out well. It was slam.
I mean,
right into
when you look at it from a rider's eye, he thinks there's a gap. I'm trying to win. He's just not aware of somebody behind him in the blind spot, as it were. But the thing is, it came out way too hard, way too far, took out the bloke's front wheel, and caused absolute carnage.
Should we look at stage 12 and throw out maybe a couple of predictions on who we think's going to win?
Yep.
Have a look at this one. We've got a Cat 4, Cat 3, another couple of Cat 3s, Cat 4 at the end. Scotty, who do you think's going to win this one?
Well, if you go on absolute current form, this looks like what we saw from Peter Sagan the other day. This isn't a sprinter's stage. It's nasty. An Ulissi or someone like that could be up in the mix, but Peter Sagan is probably the best suited. I think this could be a real GC day. Not typically what you think about for the GC guys, but I think they're starting to get very nervous with the COVID situation. And the last day where we had some lumps towards the end that wasn't seen as typically a GC day, the GC guys really came out to play, and they raced very, very hard. Pozzovivo lost an opportunity. He was trying to set things up to go on the attack. He had Western Australian Ben O'Connor drive it into one of those steep climbs the other day, and then not long later, Pozzovivo got a puncher. So
is that your phone again, John?
No, not me this time.
Oh,
so I think this will be raced. I think this will be raced like a one day classic. They're not thinking about getting to Milan now. They're just going to go flat chat. I think Sagan's probably one of the best placed, or it might even be too hard. Some of these climbs might be too steep for him.
Yeah,
the GC guys really go.
It's going to be a break. It's got to be a break that day. Scotty, you said the name. I was thinking of Diego Ulissi. He's already won a stage.
He's 7 bucks.
He's the name I was thinking of. as long as they feel he's far enough behind in GC, but I think he is. But have they said at what point, if it gets cancelled tomorrow, are they going to declare the winner? Just say, okay,
Well,
Almeida is the winner?
this is the overall market. The bookies don't really know who's going to win at this point. This is as even as you're going to see it in any Grand Tour at this part of the race. You've got, 6 riders paying under $10. So Kelderman's on top of the favourite, $3. Nibley, $3.40. Jay Almeida, he's $4. He'd be the one, given he's got a bit of a lead. And if it cancels, they're going to have to pay it out on who they declare the winner.
Yeah, if it doesn't get into the really high mountains, Almeida's a massive chance of winning if they cancel any time in the next 3-4 days. But I'd like to see Vivo win it. I'd love to see him win a Grand Tour. Like, Giro, I'd be stoked for him.
I like Almeida for the stage. Actually, I think he is looking so impressive. He ran third the other day when Sagan won, and it was a really good ride. He's looking better and better. I mean, Sunday is a really monster of a day. But the time trial Saturday, he's likely to go close to winning the damn thing, depending on how Garner is, of course. But at the moment, Robbie, answering your question, we've gone into it, and it turns out, unlike the Tour de France, where they had a certain number of days, they haven't done that at the Giro. So if the race gets cancelled tomorrow, Almeida gets the chocolates.
Yeah, well, that was the thing with the Tour de France. They didn't have to really come up with something that said, if it stops here, they were always going to finish in Paris. Wouldn't matter if it was the Black Plague, they were getting to Paris.
Exactly.
Do we know, guys, if they're still going over the Stelvio?
Well,
at the moment they are, but they finished on the Stelvio.
I saw on Macca's podcast, it was full of snow.
Because of the COVID, but because of the snow. Like, I think the last I read on the online was there's snow, but they're clearing the roads. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's my understanding too. So because they're not going over it, so they just have to get to a point. So even if it's shortened on that day, and they can try and work out somehow the logistics of finishing not on the very top, at this point it looks like they will get up it. But if if the snow is incredibly heavy the day before and the day of, well, no, they'll stop at the bottom, won't they? But
still a big
at least that's better than
halfway up it.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's super long, isn't it? So I'm probably more worried about the day to Sestriere if they do get that far, because they've got 3 big mountains, 2,700 metre climb to start with to go over into France, then the Col d'Izoard, and then they go to Sestriere. So
there'll be snow. You've seen the pictures of the Tourmalet? The Tourmalet, where the Welter's going to go, already is under a couple of metres of snow. So they're
No.
Duathlon, it's going to be.
Well, while we're talking Vuelta, and we've got Elby here, who lives in Spain.
And I was just going to say one other comment before Andrew says, with a mo like that, has Robbie started his only fans page?
I don't know.
You don't know what that means? Google it. Thank me later. Yeah, Johnny?
I was just going to get Albie's impressions of what it's like in Spain at the moment. And so we've got the Vuelta starting next Tuesday, where the Basque area where it's starting evidently is supposed to be a bit of a hotspot right now for COVID, and Madrid is going into lockdown. So what are your thoughts on whether it will happen, and if so, what changes will they have to make?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm living here in the Basque Country in the north, and to answer your question, Johnny, it's Navarra area is a really hot spot. So it's a little bit south of part of the Navarra is part of the Basque Country, but it is south of the Basque Country, and the Rioja area is a really hot spot at the moment. Madrid's always been a hot spot. Yeah, I mean, I've had communication with the organisation for months now leading into it with my job. So basically the race will go ahead as planned. I have a conference call tomorrow at 10 o'clock to be updated. But at this stage, the bubble will be enforced incredibly. There'll be no race caravan. There'll be no Vuelta fan zone. So no tour, at the start of the stages. There'll be no fans on any mountain stage. There'll be no fans at the starts or finishes, and they'll be a lot more strict on the testing. So that basically, the update on that came out after the rest out of the Giro. So at this stage, there'll be full steam ahead to start, and then obviously it'll be analysed daily. But it's been really, right now it's 9 to 13 degrees, and it's been like that for a week and a half here in the Basque Country. So the weather is going to be, like what Robbie said, is going to be a huge impact as well, because they go into the Tourmalet after 5 days. So it's a huge logistical nightmare. They need to be. There hasn't been much said about what they've done so far, these races, to put them on. There's been a lot of work to put the show on. So the Welter are doing that, and they're encouraging people just to watch it at home on TV.
Well, and the word on the street as well is they're totally different bubbles. The RCS bubble compared to the ASO bubble. The ASO bubble, no interaction with fans. It was like buses, clear run, blocked all the fans out, whereas RCS, as soon as the riders finished, and then the gap from where they finished to the bus, there's fans everywhere. So it wasn't as strict as the ASO side of things, and we're seeing it with the positive cases. So if you're going to do a bubble, you have to do it all the way, or don't even bloody bother, because it's not working.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good example of that is with the police now in Italy, Jonesy.
Yeah.
It's obviously nothing to do with the teams, but obviously a big part of the race. It's such a hard situation to control, but it needs to be so strict, the bubble.
Yeah. Johnny, we need to plug your sponsors before we wrap up the show. Do you want to show the boys how it's done?
I will do that. The beautiful Mitchelton Hotel, as a part of the Mitchelton Wines, it is the experience, the history, the beauty and the serenity of the Goulburn Valley. A wonderful Muse restaurant when you can explore the seasonal menu with the wines perfectly paired. It's become the absolute go-to place for weddings now. So it's booked out for much of the year. So if you're planning a wedding in the next 6 months or so, I'd get in quick, because it's absolutely superb place for a wedding. There's that iconic tower up the top there where you get a beautiful view. Catch the lift, don't walk up. Catch the lift and look over the beautiful Goulburn Valley. Get into the fantastic cellar door, book for amazing wine tasting with a beautiful Mitchelton Heathcote Shiraz, my favourite. Or get into the day spa, where you can quiet the mind, unwind the body, rediscover your balance in a setting of peace and harmony.
Good on you, Johnny. Hey, Robbie, remember when we did that training camp there and I slammed your finger in the door?
You know what? I don't remember my finger being slammed in the door, because I sprained my ankle so badly after a tasting while I was running back across. Oh, my God. I nearly snapped my foot off.
Robbie called me to pick him up at the caravan park in the middle of this oval, so I come out in my car.
Straight after I nearly broke my ankle. I sprained my ankle, nearly folded it off the bottom of my leg. I said, Dan, you've got to come and get me in the car. I can't move. I went to get in the car, and Dan slammed my finger in the door of the car. So on the stage, within 5 minutes, I nearly busted my ankle, and Dan broke my piano career was finished right there. Dan, Dan for rescue.
Yeah. All right, we'll have a quick word from our mates at Bike Exchange, and then we'll wrap the show at the back of this.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands. where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Sensational ad.
It is.
It is.
What do you want to wrap up with?
Hey, Robbie, didn't you do your ankle as well, mate? That day we trained with the Melbourne Storm.
No, that
That's
was
right.
on me when I was trying to tag you in the tackling drill. I couldn't get you, and I fell on my knee. I was in the wars on that training camp. It's the reason I actually retired.
Bellamy put you into retirement.
That was so much fun, that training camp.
Like I said, nobody remembers all of that. They just remember the good stuff.
Yeah, you never get
right.
And Robbie McEwan, 12-stage wins of the Tour d'Italia, 12-stage wins of the Tour de France, banged his knee up on a training camp, almost broke his ankle.
Sprained his ankle and lost his finger.
They don't. Hey, guys, Demar, that was his 4th-stage win of the Giro. It was 1982, the last time a Frenchman had won 4 stages at a Giro. Bernard Hinault was the man. Now, we had Michael Wilson on. Remember, early on in the Giro? It was that year, 82, that he won the stage. So the first Australian to win a stage of the Giro was that year. We know that he beat Laurent Fignon at that particular stage 2, I think it was. But in the top 10 that day, behind Michael and Fignon, was Tommy Priem, Giuseppe Saroni, Francesco Moser, and also Bernard Hinault. So just a little bit of trivia there, boys, going back to connect this year's tour to 1982 and Michael Wilson's success.
There you go.
Mate, you were cycling's version of Goodwill Hunting. Like, unbelievable, these equations that you bang out on the wall.
Yeah, but I'm still only working as a janitor, so no big deal.
Yeah, but
Oh,
you're
good.
solving the quizzes, mate. That's the main thing. What do you want to wrap up with, John? Come on, give us something. Give us a funny story or something.
No, I'm just going to because I think what I love about Sagan, that stage win in stage 10 was brilliant, and he's kept alive the race for the points. Now, okay, Demar won yesterday, but he's still only about 40 points behind, and I reckon I've changed my theory. I reckon he will win tomorrow, and he'll take over the lead in the points race. There you go.
16 points it is at the moment, Johnny. So he's right back in the mix. Yeah.
And Gary makes a good point. Tom Boonen turns 40 today. Tomica. There you go.
Oh, there you go.
I thought he turned 40 about 8 years ago.
Yeah, well, he's 40 today, mate.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, fellas. You don't be scared.
Yeah, he went for a nibble. No bites. Gonna change the bait, mate. All right, John, we boring you, mate. All right,
I
sorry,
was just trying to get some facts because I don't think you can be only 12 points behind because he was 22 points behind after he won the stage, and then Demar won the stage yesterday. It's got to be more than that.
Yeah, and he beat him in the intermediate sprint, so it's something more like 23 or 4.
Who said 12 points? Scotty,
yeah.
No, I said 16.
I thought you were the numbers guy.
Yeah,
Goodwill Hunting. He hasn't carried the one.
You know, Scotty,
30.
You got to halve it or double it.
Yeah, 36 points. 36.
Okay,
30,
you're only 24 off, mate. It's all right.
Long way to Milan.
That's right. All right. Well, thanks for joining the show, boys. It's been an absolute belter. As we always say, 7:30 every night. Hang on. Tomorrow night there's footy finals on. Can we do it earlier? We do it 6:30 tomorrow night.
6:30, fine.
Yeah. 6:30 tomorrow night because we need to finish at 7:30. The footy's on. So make sure you tune in to a special edition of the Detour tomorrow night. Thanks, Albie. Thanks, Robbie. Great yarns, boys. And we'll speak to you all soon.
Oh, good, bud.
No
Hit
worries.
the button, mate. Hit the button.
Hit the button.
This is the winning